All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the Gunner Technology Livestream, a weekly tech talk for non-techies and techies alike. I'm your host, Derry Merkins. With me again, founder and CEO of Gunner Technology, Cody Swan. What's up, Cody?
What's going on? I'm just checking out our Facebook feed. I think we have the title as the same as the last week.
Good. That's what we like to see.
I think yes.
Is it really? Episode 15, the future of the industry. I didn't update the future of the industry. Managing client expectations. So we're hot out of the gate this week. This episode, we're actually starting a new 10-part series on the business side of the technology industry. So this first episode is going to be talking about managing client expectations. But before we get to that, we'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Country Shore. Visit them at countryshoreoutfitters.com. It's for anybody who loves the outdoors. And we have a winner of the Country Shore giveaway. Bob D from Charleston, South Carolina has some Country Shore swag coming his way. Make sure to sign up for the Country Shore giveaway. We do it every week. Sign up on our Facebook page, the Gunner Technology Facebook page. And also on the Gunner Technology Facebook page is our question of the week. So, Cody, do you want to talk about the question of the week for this week?
Yeah. So kind of the question of the week ending today or ending yesterday. We had the question was how much time, this is kind of with our series about keeping up with technology. The question was, how much time do you spend keeping up with tech news each week? And we had less than an hour, 1 to 3 hours, 3 to 5 hours, and more than 5 hours. And again, we broke the 2000 between our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and our newsletter poll. We broke the 2000 mark, and the majority or the plurality of responses say 1 to 3 hours a week keeping up with tech news. So that's kind of interesting. That's not a non-significant amount of time to spend keeping up with tech news, considering that most of our audience isn't really in the tech industry.
I was going to say 1 to 3 hours seems minuscule to me. I feel like for us, it's probably 1 to 3 hours a day trying to keep up with everything that happens in technology. I mean, it's just absurd how much happens in any given day.
Sure, but these are the same people who also ask us to fix their Windows XP.
Yeah, so, no, true. I mean, I think 1 to 3 hours a week is actually pretty good for keeping up with technology.
Yeah, me too, definitely, for sure. So, all right, this week, out on Twitter, on Facebook, and in our newsletter, again, kind of goes with our topic from last week. Do you think technology is good for society?
My goodness gracious. We like to keep our questions pretty simple. So if you got a technology question of the week.
Yes or no, that's all. Those are the only choices you get.
Yeah. So just chime in with a simple binary answer on a question that people have spent centuries discussing. All right, so let's hop into this week's topic. And the question this week for us is, how do you manage client expectations? Which is another big question, really.
Yeah, gosh. And it goes in conjunction with a lot of the stuff we talked about, where a lot of times clients kind of don't even know what they're asking for, or at least the complexity involved or lack thereof in what they're asking for. You know, we did an episode where we talked about how something that seems like it'll take months can take hours, and something that seems like it would take hours can take months. So there's a big gap in actual conceptualization versus reality. And so basically, one of the things that I always say is that communicate all the time, like over communicate, and that's going to really help mitigate unrealistic expectations. So a lot of times, especially when you're working remotely, which we do with almost all of our clients are remote, there's like a tendency to kind of think if they can't see you, you're not doing anything. And so they start to get really anxious if they don't see stuff. It's not a huge problem with us, usually because we're working most of the time in weekly iterations. So at the end of every week, the client's going to see something new. But that aspect of just kind of like hand holding and shooting an email that just kind of lets the client know that you're working. That's a big first step in mitigating that situation.
I think those weekly meetings are important too, as far as not just planning the week out, but being able to talk to people on a weekly basis, either on the phone or on a video chat, just to sort of have that ability to interact face to face or via voice, so that you can sort of keep tabs on what's happening and what's going on, and then also just keep the discussion open with your clients.
Yeah, it's really weird because when I'm a client, I'm like total opposite. I'm the client who's like, all right, when's this going to be done? All right, I'll talk to you then. Kind of thing. Like,
Right? Yeah.
I don't really want to be involved in the process. I just want to know when it's going to be done and kind of show me it when it's done, kind of thing. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Although the weird thing is, I'm constantly disappointed in people when I do it that way. It's like, and that's why I understand why clients are the way they are. Is because I don't want to micromanage anyone, whether it's the guy fixing my truck or the graphic designer that we subcontract with to make our marketing material, our book marketing material. I don't want to micromanage anyone. And although 9 times out of 10, if you don't micromanage, you don't get what you wanted and you don't get it on time.
And that's the difficulty, I guess. And that's what's weird about working with us is, we're happy to have the discussions, and we obviously, want to work in a way that allows our clients to feel confident that stuff is being done and done in a timely manner. But if clients were, and they have in the past, were to say, here's a project, I'll see you in 3 months, show it to me when it's done, we can easily do that as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, and then we'll check in via email. Oh, hey, did you have any specific terms of service you wanted us to include in the application? Do you want us to change your email server over? Things that come up, you can just handle in like a 5-second email. And in reality, that if done correctly, that methodology saves a lot of time on the client's part, because if they have other things they need to be doing, that kind of throw it over the wall and let me know if you need anything, that works really well. That's why I prefer, is because I don't have the time to be holding someone's hand. Like, there's a reason I'm paying you to do this. It's because I either don't have the time or expertise to do it myself. So I'm trusting you to do it the right way, and I'm trusting you to ask me if you have any questions if you need it. But if you say something's gonna be done, I expect it to be done.
Yeah, I think that trust angle is probably the most important aspect of any business relationship, and it's the hardest one to develop, and it's the easiest one to ruin.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And the other thing, you talk about that is, and it goes in line with communication, is clients want to feel like they're the most important client, and every client wants to feel that way. And not every client can be true. I say that. That's not true. That's not carte blanche. Some clients will kind of like Mr. Magoo, or not Mr. Magoo, but like poor mouth themselves a bit. I know I'm not your biggest client. Well, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if you're our biggest client. You should feel like you're important. Now, everyone can't be the most important client, and really, I don't know what that would even look like. Someone being the most important client.
I think it's like everyone being above average.
Yeah, that's right. That's that's right. Like, everyone gets a B plus kind of thing. But everyone wants to feel at least like they're important, and that's understandable. And communication solves that a lot too. They don't want to send an email and not get a response for 2 days. Like, they just don't want that, because they assume if you're not responding almost immediately, that you're too busy working on something else and you've kind of pushed their stuff to the side.
We actually have a really interesting question from one of our viewers, which is, how much of this is a holdover from the way business used to be done? Which is actually that's
You mean over scotch?
yeah, exactly. A couple packs of cigarettes and a bottle of scotch. It is interesting though, because so much of business used to be face-to-face interaction, or, I mean, for the longest time, phone calls, just because that's the only way that you could communicate with people other than, like the Pony Express. But nowadays with electronic communication, it changes the game, but people's expectations are still the same.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because we have all these I kind of laugh. We have all these tools like Slack, Kanban, and
Yep.
all these pivotal tracker, all these tools to like make communication less personal, but really what clients want is more personal communication. So we spend all these time, and I say we, I mean the tech industry comes with all these crazy tools to help have as little interaction with the person as possible. And yet that's the driving force back to that old school model of doing it face to face. And so, uh, obviously I agree that as much communication as you can do asynchronously, the more time you're going to save, the more productive you're going to be. But at the same time, I realize that that's not, that you have to have that face, that talking, that face to face. You need to have that. Yet the tools that we build are getting more and more away from that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting, and I don't want to denigrate other industries, but it seems like software development is a job where you need hours of unbroken time to focus on a problem, and interruptions, it almost cascades. Like it's much harder to get back into something after being interrupted for 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I've explained that. I saw a chart one time, and it's exactly right. It's like, so for example, if you're driving a stake into the ground, the productivity goes like this. And I don't know if let me see if I can actually see my hand.
Yeah, we can see it. We
You
got
can
it.
see the productivity goes like this, right? And so for software development, when you get started on something, you don't just start hammering into the ground. There's like this kind of slow takeoff, and then it goes like this, and then it goes like this. And if you get like a phone call or something, it goes joop, and then you come right back to that slow takeoff point. And it's exactly right. You don't just pick up where you left off. Any small interruption is enough to just set you back. Like, even though it's 5 minutes, it'll set you back 2 hours if you had just stayed on course.
It's tough because I was thinking there might be, like, you could build an app for remote workers where like you're just constantly on camera and people can like remotely knock on your door to see if you're available to talk about stuff and just pop into a video chat session. But then that would just be a nightmare for productivity.
Yeah, well, and in our colo locations, we have like a rule where headphones on means do not disturb kind of thing. Like under no certain, unless the building is burning down, don't interrupt
And
someone who
even
has their
then,
head.
and even then,
And even then, like the heat needs to be palpable for you to tap someone on the shoulder who's wearing headphones.
yeah, I mean, that's also tough too because it's hard to really translate that as far as it being so. And that's what I mean when I don't want to denigrate other industries or other jobs, but if you are driving a stake into the ground and somebody comes up and talks to you for 5 to 10 minutes, you can just go back to driving a stake in the ground. And that is not to insult our stake driving audiences. So
and now I just want a steak.
yeah, no, I'm just hungry. How about deadlines? How do you manage client expectations as far as deadlines go?
Well, and that's kind of, yeah, the weekly meetings help a lot. I mean, those really help a lot because we can actually show progress with the application. I mean, during our weekly meetings, our client has seen the application in its current state of development, current state of development. If not, we show them demos during the weekly meeting. So that kind of, those baby steps, the incremental development, the iterative development, that kind of helps mollify, no, pacify, yes, the concerns that a project may be going off of deadline. And so if they're actually seeing the progress is being made step by step, there's a lot less anxiety that we're going to miss this deadline kind of thing. So that helps tremendously. And it's weird because the other thing that helps tremendously, but is kind of a false sense of security. And so we just kind of I just kind of described agile methodology. But the other thing that kind of helps is those Gantt charts that lay out every step of the way of where the project will be from week to week, from the launch of the project. So at the launch of the project, you have this big chart that shows where you're going to be each and every week. And at the beginning of the project, that's kind of a comfort level. Okay, I can see where we're going to be this week. I can see where we're going to be the next week. But that can have kind of the reverse effect, because if situation dictates that you deviate from that schedule, which almost always happens, then you have more anxiety. Oh, well, I thought we were going to be here on week 4. Well, yeah, we were going to be here, but we realized that we had to go actually and do week 6 work before we get to week 4 work. So on the Gantt chart, yeah, we haven't gotten done with week 4 yet, but we actually already did week 6. So overall, we're ahead of schedule. You can't explain it like that. Once you have that Gantt chart, it's kind of like everything is set in stone. And if you deviate from it at all, you induce anxiety. So at the beginning of a project, that Gantt chart, that waterfall type development can have a pacifying effect. But the second you deviate from that plan, then you're kind of doubling down on the anxiety level.
And for the record, mollify is also the right word to use there. But
okay,
it seems like
I was like 90. I was like
no,
90.
That's a great word too, mollify. You don't hear mollify too much these days. But it seems like another example of old school bumping into new school. So a lot of these, I mean, for the longest time, waterfall, and we talked about it on a different episode, but maybe just real quick, I guess the basics of waterfall are you plan out the entirety of the project and schedule out what features are going to be built when before the project even starts. So we see that a lot in our government work. Government wants waterfall methods to be used. So they want, because they're trying to control budget as tightly as they possibly can. So they want to know exactly what timeline is going to be needed to build the exact features that they want for the exact product that they're trying to build. Which is the way that stuff was built for the longest time. And I think Agile's really only taken off in the past couple decades. And there's still a pushback against using Agile methodologies because there is a certain risk involved. And there's a certain comfort level that goes along with waterfall where you know exactly what's going to be built. So that's another we talked about it in our Agile episode, but just discuss again how you communicate Agile methodologies to people who aren't familiar with them.
Yeah, we had a good analogy that I'm trying to remember what it was now, but like waterfall development is like taking a recipe and following it exactly, like a cooking recipe, and following it exactly. Everything has a time to put it in, exactly how much, et cetera, et cetera. And then kind of like Agile is kind of like trying a new recipe. You kind of don't know what's going to work and what's not. So you're trying to make a recipe. So you kind of put something in, you taste it. Okay, you don't like it, you start over. You put something in, you like it. Oh, okay, you keep going. And things like that. So that's kind of off the top of my head the best analogy that I can come up with. Where Agile is more like we'll figure it out as we go. And while that sounds scary, you usually end up with a better end product because you're building it to fit the requirements every step of the way, rather than especially very large projects where you assume that step 80 is going to be required, even though step 70 may change the project in ways you never thought it would. So kind of like waterfall is good for things that you've done before. Like, you know how to do it. There's a process. You've done it before. You're not doing anything different. You're just kind of like, like building a house kind of thing. And yes, there's some subtleties that go into building a house, but kind of like, you pour the concrete, you lay the foundation, you build the walls, you put the roof on. There's certain steps. Waterfall is really good for that because you can have a pretty good safe estimate on when those steps are going to occur and how long those steps are going to take. Something like software development, where you're building something, but that's kind of the only thing you're doing repeatedly is building something. What that something is different every single time. That's not to go say that all software is like that. For example, like simple websites, same thing as building a house. You have the the sketching step, you have the wireframing step, you have the mock step, and then you have the implementation step. But software development, yes, you have stages, but you're doing something different every single time. So it's almost insane to think you're going to know how long step 70 is going to take, because step 70 is something that's never been done before. It's like, instead of putting a roof on a house, you decide you're going to put like a spaceship on top of your house. And so who has put a spaceship on top of their house before? I have no idea how long it's going to take. I have no idea how long it's going to take. I know we can do it. We can figure it out, but I have no idea how long it's going to take.
And that gets into an interesting closing topic, which is when you don't know how long something's going to take and it's something that's never been done before, how do you manage clients' expectations as far as budget is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. And kind of the way we take it is you win some, you lose some. You kind of have to, you're giving the client an estimate, basically, and you have to be straight. You have to be honest with them, and you say, I have no idea how long it's going to take. And again, it depends on the payment schedule. If it's hourly, you have to be straight up and be like, look, I can give you kind of a guesstimate on this one, but I have no idea. And if they say, no, I need an estimate, well, then you're going to have to do your best to give an estimate and stick to that. You can't say it's going to be, I think it's going to be 20 hours. You can give a range. You can say it's going to be 20 to 30 hours, but then if it ends up taking you 60 hours, you can't bill for 60. You just can't. And so you come up with a range they're going to live with. So for example, if we tell a client it's going to be 20 to 30 hours, sometimes it'll be way over and sometimes it'll be way under. But what you've done is you've come up with a cost that the client is acceptable with. You know, if you say it could be 80 hours and they're not okay with that, then they're not going to pay you for that work. So you've both arrived at a number that you're comfortable with. And sometimes, you know, like I said, we're going to be putting in 80 hours of work for something that we estimate at 20 to 30 hours. That's just, we have to get better estimating. But the unknowns are really scary in a project. And so you do your best to do the research and kind of come up with an estimate. And then aside from cost, you have to tackle those unknowns right away. Get those out of the way, if at all possible, in a project schedule, because those are the things where you hear it's kind of a running joke, like the project has been 80% done for like, on like a 6-month project, the project will have been 80% done for 5 months. It's that last 20%, because the tendency is to put off those unknowns to the end, but then the whole back end of the project is going to take an unknown longer period of time. So you try to get all those unknowns, like you put all your resources on the unknowns as quickly as possible and get those out of the way. Because if you have the unknowns out of the way, then you know if you're on schedule or not. If you don't have the unknowns out of the way, you have no idea if you're on schedule. So both from a scheduling standpoint and a cost estimation standpoint, unknowns are just scary things.
It's a great shout out to our Donald Rumsfeld theory of coding, TM. The known unknowns. Those are the things that you want to knock out first in a project.
That's right.
And deal with the unknown unknowns as they come up. And handle the known knowns at the very end of the project, because you know how to do that stuff because they're known.
Handle the known knowns with gnomes.
Yes. And on that note, that'll wrap up this Managing Client Expectations episode. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. We had a ton of viewers today. Make sure to check out the associated blog post at gunnertech.com. Make sure to check out our ebooks on Amazon, iBooks, Barnes & Noble, and wherever ebooks are sold. Make sure to check out our sponsor, Country Shore, countryshoreoutfitters.com, and sign up for the Country Shore giveaway on our Facebook page. And make sure to give a yes or no answer to the toughest question of the week that's ever been asked, which was, remind everyone again, Cody, what the question of the week was.
Is technology good for society?
Yes or no. 2 options. And make sure to tune in next Thursday at 1:00 Eastern, and keep an eye out for us because we're probably going to be doing some live coding during March Madness.
Oh yeah, that's right. I meant to say that's why I'm wearing my Florida Gator sweatshirt today.
Go Gator!
Supporting the Gators. They're on tonight at 9 o'clock. So
I think we have a good shot of making it to the Elite Eight again. That seems to be the Florida Gators' MO. Make it to the Elite Eight and crash out.
A lot of unknowns. A lot of unknowns with our team this year.
A lot of unknowns with college basketball in general for me. I don't know what the heck is going on. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Next Thursday, 1 o'clock Eastern time for the next episode of the Gunner Technology live stream. We'll see you guys then.